As Chancellor of the University, I declare this congregation open for the conferring of degrees by the authority of the Senate and Council.
As Vice-Chancellor of the University of Leicester, I'm delighted to welcome all graduates, friends, relations, sponsors, visitors and other guests who join us this morning. Degree ceremonies are unique occasions. They are celebrations, and that's what we are gathered here today to do, to celebrate your achievement over the last academic year or several academic years. Degree ceremonies certainly should be enjoyable occasions because they should be something that last in the memory. They are products of hard work, but they're also products of lots more. Think of all the fun you've had while you've been at the University of Leicester. We celebrate that today. All the interesting people you've met, the new friends you've made, that's all part of going to university, and that is something we celebrate. We also celebrate innovation, and we celebrate, first and foremost, achievement. As degree ceremonies celebrate your academic status in gaining a degree from a leading British university. But for several of you, you will have been searching, and when I say several of you, I include parents and friends as well. You will have read statements about the University of Leicester through searching prospectuses some 3 or 4 years ago. But is the University of Leicester today the same university that you actually looked at 4 years ago? I'm going to suggest it isn't. Because it's better than it was when you looked at it 4 years ago. It was really terrific then, but it's developed over the period. If you look at the university today, it has 17,000 students. If you look at the student body, 10% of our students come from overseas and add much to the quality of the university. The work in the university is such that we are a research-led institution. That is, that each and every department engages in leading research activity that is used in the teaching programme, so that those who are engaged in teaching actually take you over the 3 years, step by step, to the edge of the subject that you are working in. And in this way, we emphasise a close relationship between high-quality research and high-quality teaching. So in this respect, if you look at this university's teaching achievements in the last 2 years, you find that each and every department that has been evaluated externally has achieved a score of excellent. If you look at the student body in this degree ceremony this morning, it is in microcosm what the university is like. A mixture of undergraduate and postgraduate students, a mixture of people who are studying degrees face-to-face on campus, and some who have engaged in distance learning. From that point of view, if you look at the student body undergraduate to postgraduate, you find that it is approximately 50% postgraduate, 50% undergraduate. Certainly, in the faculties graduating this morning, we have several distinctive features, and I will just give a few illustrations. If you look at the Department of English Local History, it is a very distinguished department that achieved a top grade in research in the last assessment exercise. If you look at our Department of Museum Studies, it is unique in the country. When we had a conference here recently of everyone who was a significant figure in the museum studies world, one of the great things for me is that the majority had been trained in Leicester, and that puts us at centre stage. In education, we have our distinguished educational management unit that is based in Northampton. which has an international presence and is of great significance to us and to many of you graduating today. The School of Education also regularly produces 300 teachers every year, so that the University of Leicester is well represented in all our schools. But then the Faculty of Education also carries the title Education and Continuing Studies, a phrase that actually speaks to the spirit of the age, namely to lifelong learning through people engaged in short courses and part-time degrees. Now, as I've indicated, many of the departments that are represented here today offer postgraduate as well as undergraduate degrees, offer work through distance learning. This is an opportunity for you all, because we offer a range of qualifications. So actually, those of you who thought this might mark the end of your relationship with the University of Leicester, I have some good news. This is just the beginning. We have many more qualifications that we can offer you throughout your life. Because one of the things that the government's agendas in this country and worldwide speaks to is the language of lifelong learning. And in that respect, we have this year established in the university an Institute of Lifelong Learning, which will focus on short courses, professional development, things that you can do with the University of Leicester alongside a full-time occupation. For those who want further courses, we have established a university-wide graduate school, and graduate studies seems to me to engage very well with vocational training, and from that point of view, you can link together vocational training at an advanced level, building on what you have done in a first degree programme, in order to actually engage in further work which is linked to the occupation that you follow. But then opportunities to link with the University of Leicester do not just come through further study. They also come through opportunities to engage with our Alumni Association. And all of you who graduate this morning are automatically members of the Leicester Graduates Association. In this respect, I shall look forward to meeting you over the coming years as you link with the university through the Alumni Association, linking with not only the university but also with your departments. But then today, we are involved in celebration, celebrating your success, but also celebrating the success of your teachers, your families, and yourselves. But I'd like us to demonstrate how, like all Leicester graduates, you believe that we should thank people who have in fact supported us through the period of study to reach the degree ceremony today. And one of the things we've been doing in degree ceremonies yesterday is to applaud those people who have helped us through the period. But you know, yesterday it was pretty good for Leicester graduates, but I said, well, I'm hoping that those people from the faculties graduating on Thursday morning, I hope they can applaud better, longer and louder than the people who were graduating yesterday. But so, just to help you, I thought we'd have a bit of practice, if that's all right. So what I'd like you to do is to applaud all those people, all your friends, relatives, the teachers who've engaged with you, and in fact those people who've sponsored you, and to say thank you very much indeed. That's very good, but whether it's going to be good enough to beat, you've got to beat the people yesterday and medicine, I'm told, on Friday. That's a real challenge. So what you've got to do is really sort of lift the roof off this morning, and that will mean that your departments and faculties will then definitely be in the lead. Because certainly the graduating class of 2000 has much to celebrate. This year, there are just over 3,000 people graduating from our degree ceremonies. If one looks at the composition, about 2,000 of the people that are graduating were registered for classified bachelor's degrees. And of those 2,000, just over 1,200 people are receiving first and upper second class honours degrees. That is a considerable development and builds on the success of previous years, and we are very proud of you all as the graduating class of 2000. All that remains for me to say is have a very enjoyable occasion this morning, have a super day with us in the University of Leicester, and may I offer you my congratulations and indeed wish you every success in your future careers.
With the exception of the period of the Second World War, when he and his mother were evacuated to Leicestershire, Gerald Bernbaum was brought up in Hackney, London. Educated at the much publicised Hackney Downs Grammar School, or as he calls it, Eton of the East End, he then went to the London School of Economics. There he read BSc degree in economics before moving on to the London Institute of Education in 1958 to train as a school teacher. His first post was at Mitcham Grammar School for Boys, before moving on in 1962 to become head of department at Rutherford School, the first comprehensive to be set up by the then London County Council. After 6 years' experience of schools, he held an increasing interest in academic aspects of teaching. This led his career to take a different path, and he came to the University of Leicester as a lecturer in the School of Education. In 1970, he was promoted to senior lecturer and then 4 short years later to professor, which at just 37 years made him the youngest in the university and the youngest professor in education in the country. Thereafter, he became director of the School of Education. His academic work has been extensive and had considerable impact. His early research dealt with the historical and sociological aspects of education, and subsequently he conducted major research into the role of headmaster, supported with grants of over £750,000. Amongst his many publications was the highly influential and prophetic work Schooling in Decline, which marked a trend away from the prior optimistic orientation which had largely been accepted. In addition, he served for 8 years on the Education Committee of the ESRC, eventually becoming its chairman. Professor Birnbaum's career was to take a further development in 1985, when he was elected Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Leicester University, before becoming Executive Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Registrar 2 years later. One of the achievements of his office was to undertake a refurbishment programme and upgrade the halls of residences. He is particularly proud that he was responsible both for the installation of sinks in the rooms of the Hall of Residence and for having, quote, bullied the university into buying the Fraser Noble building. In other ways, too, he has made a strong impact with administrative reorganisation, building up the postgraduate portfolio of the School of Education, and trebling the numbers of overseas students on campus. Another aspect of his time at Leicester was reflected in his keen interest in professional sport, especially football and cricket. He played in the staff cricket team between 1965 and 1993, taking the captaincy in 1970. During his time, the team rose to the Premier Division of the South Leicestershire League and on one occasion won the Knockout Cup. He remains an ardent supporter of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and can regularly be seen on the terraces of White Hart Lane with his old friend and fellow honourand Professor Tony Giddens. However, he could be forgiven for having had a momentary lapse of enthusiasm for the noble game of football when in 1992 the Leicester City Council decided to hold a mass celebration for Leicester City Football Club's achievements of that season. The problem was that the venue they had chosen was immediately adjacent to the university, and the date bang smack in the middle of the midsummer examinations. The potential for disruption of the usual collegiate calm needed for the students during examination times was of major concern. To reschedule at short notice would have been an administrative impossibility, but Professor Birnbaum's blend of imagination and determination found an alternative solution. Each student was to be equipped with a pair of earplugs. The trip to Boots, the chemist, is also remembered for the assistant's face when she asked how many pairs of earplugs he needed, 1 or 2. Actually, replied the professor, we need 1,000. In 1993, he was appointed Vice-Chancellor at the South Bank University in London. In the subsequent 7 years there, he has introduced new courses in psychology, English, arts and management, and been responsible for the construction of 3 major buildings, the purchase of 2 others, and the acquisition of a further large site. He is especially pleased that in developing in this way, the university is playing not only an academic role, but also helping to regenerate a rundown area of London. One quality, though, has perhaps not been sufficiently covered in the foregoing, namely Professor Birnbaum's wit. An illustration of this can be found in what may be an apocryphal story about his handling of an academic who had long reached pensionable age. The academic was reluctant to retire because he felt he did so much in the department he'd been letting his colleagues down, that he was irreplaceable. Professor Birnbaum placed his arm around the chap's shoulder and gently led him to the window, and pointing to the view across University Road of the cemetery, said, "See that lot? They all thought they were indispensable too." The emergent picture, therefore, is of a very talented teacher, a forceful, influential academic, and a highly skilled and effective administrator. It is a great pleasure to welcome him back to Leicester and to honour him here today. Mr. Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate and the Council, I present Gerald Bernbaum that you may confer upon him the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws.
I admit you the degree of Doctor of Law and welcome you among us. And there you are. Just proves it. Congratulations. Well done.
It is my pleasure to present Sue Campbell to this degree congregation. Sue Campbell's passion for sport and its capacity for developing skills, improving communication, and enabling people to be the best they can be become immediately apparent from even the briefest conversations with her. It is easy to see why she is now advising government on sports education in schools and to recognise that she is likely to make things happen in the treacly waters of political choice. Sue describes herself as someone who was always more physical than academic. Indeed, she is very dismissive of any suggestion that she has any sort of academic credentials. At school, she was good at sport. That is an understatement. She went on to be the British College's pentathlon champion and an international athlete. She also won international honours in netball. Like many outstanding athletes, she trained as a PE teacher. This seemed to offer the opportunity to combine a career and sport. Her first job was in a tough school in Manchester, and she learned so much from the challenges she faced in that school. But she also saw the capacity of sport to penetrate deprivation and to offer opportunities other than or additional to traditional scholastic achievement. This is the 5th honorary doctorate to be awarded to Sue Campbell. After 4, she had decided that she would accept no more if they were offered. She wondered whether they were really deserved and how they advanced her current ambitions. She has made an exception for the University of Leicester because she wishes to accept this honour as a tribute to Bob White, who was the Director of Physical Education at the University of Leicester when she joined this university in 1972. She is delighted that Bob's widow is able to be here today in the balcony. Sue had met Bob White once or twice before she came to Leicester, and he was a hugely formative influence on her. She tells me he taught her to think and to research a problem, to investigate before you invest. He also nudged and cajoled her into upgrading her academic qualifications. He saw the mother lode behind the glinting gold in her. 4 years at the University of Leicester were followed by 4 years at Loughborough University. Then in 1980, she moved to become Regional Officer of the Sports Council for the East Midlands region. She worked on developing sports programs for unemployed young people, for people with disabilities, and for the elderly. But things really took off in 1984, when she became Chief Executive Officer of the National Coaching Foundation. From a standing start with no money, few staff, and a blank sheet of paper, she confronted the view that you would make a good coach if you had been a successful competitor. She investigated before she invested. She visited every national director of coaching as essential research in addressing the need for a national coaching qualification which harnessed the skills of thousands of volunteers and delivered a proper professional qualification in, and here I quote Sue, market stall bites. As a result, she created the best sports coaching education program in the world. Through her vision, passion, and enthusiasm, she managed to cut across the self-interest, introversion, and isolationism that characterizes so much of British sport. She created an organization that delivers a quality coaching education program which has been adopted by many governing bodies as a core requirement for achieving coaching qualifications in their activity. She has also been called upon to advise many other countries on her model. When she left in 1995, the National Coaching Foundation had regional offices, substantial sponsorship, and the support of most national governing bodies of sport. She is currently Chief Executive of the Youth Sport Trust, a charity whose aim is to bring sport to life for young people. It is not just about producing Olympic champions, but about producing opportunities for young people to grow through the opportunities that sport provides. She is an advocate of what she calls movement literacy, control of our bodies, which we can all acquire through participation and modest exercise, improves cognitive skills. This holistic approach to sport is compelling, whether in the context of producing the next world champion or in producing a healthy generation of youngsters in an age in which all too often sport involves a darkened room, a television, and a PlayStation. The power of her message is such that she is currently acting as advisor to Kate Hoey, the Minister of Sport, and Estelle Morris, the Minister for Education, on a new approach to sport in schools. The message is powerful. The messenger has a vision, passion, and love of sport that set her apart and truly make her world-class. Mr. Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate and the Council, I present to you Susan Campbell, that you may confer upon her the Honorary Degree of Doctor of Letters.
Admit the degree, Doctor of Letters. Welcome in amongst.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, graduating students, colleagues and friends. My first responsibility is to thank the University for the honour it has given Sue Campbell and I this morning. And in doing that, on my own behalf, I must express my gratitude to Julian Boone for his generous, nay, flattering citation. Amongst the achievements that he omitted, however, was an acknowledgement of the fact that I was, 10 or so years ago, the chairman of the selection committee that appointed him. It's a pleasure also to be associated in this occasion with Sue Campbell and to recollect that how many years ago, I better not say, we shared offices. Thus, it is inevitable that on occasions like this, memories are evoked. When I arrived in Leicester, getting on for 40 years ago, the assassination of President Kennedy had taken place just 9 months previously. Harold Wilson had yet to become Prime Minister, the M1 stopped at rugby, and Ted Dexter was captain of a losing English cricket team. In 1964, Leicester University had fewer than 2,000 students. There was no Charles Wilson Building, no Adrian Building, no Attenborough Tower, no Mathematics Building, no Computer Centre, indeed, no computers. There was no building adjacent to the Percy G. The site of the Richard Attenborough Centre was the City Fire Station. There was no separate library, as it was embedded in the general untidiness at the back of the Fielding Johnson Building. Villiers Hall did not exist. Stamford Hall was a collection of 19th century houses across from here in Salisbury Road. Freeman's Common was just that, empty common land apart from some run-down allotments. The Sir Maurice Shock Medical School building was a bowling green occupied by elderly ladies in white skirts. The School of Education existed in two separate old houses, 152 Upper New Walk and 328 London Road. What is now the School of Education was then, appropriately enough, the East Midlands Gas Board. Part of the arts faculty was in a long-forgotten structure, H Block. H Block had been built during the First World War as an extension to the Fielding Johnson building, which had served as a hospital for wounded soldiers. In 1964, H Block, with its match-boarded, ill-fitting doors and creaking floors, had changed little. What transformed this university and others was a belief that higher education was a national investment which was worth paying for. The new buildings turned the university into the busy, high-density, effective campus that exists today. Student numbers grew, teaching and research expanded, and the university emerged as a significant national and regional asset, making a notable contribution to international scholarship. In present circumstances, it might be well to reflect upon the achievements of Leicester University over the period that I have known it. Achievements based largely upon public funding and upon the scholarship, energy, and commitment of its staff. Leicester University is without doubt amongst the world leaders in both the biological sciences and space physics. Thus, a relatively small university in a medium-sized city is in a position to make a major contribution to the science and technology that will dominate the 21st century. The university is also renowned, as the Vice-Chancellor has indicated, for its innovative research and teaching in such diverse fields as museum studies, mass communications, English local history, the study of labour markets, the study of primary schools, social policy, modern literature, and archaeology. But there is more than that. Since 1964, the university has produced hundreds, no thousands, of school teachers, social workers, lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, scientists, and managers of all kinds in the public and private sectors. All of these, directly and indirectly, through their expertise, training, and skills, and through the taxes that they pay, make in turn a contribution to the national wealth and to a modern society. The young people graduating today will themselves go on to make contributions of their own. But the context in which higher education now operates raises doubts as to whether the progress of British universities that I have illustrated from what has happened at Leicester could be repeated in the next 40 years. In 1964, about 7% of the relevant age group studied at universities. Now it is well over 30%, and the government wishes to make it 50%. The expansion, however, has been paid for by a massive reduction in the amount spent upon the education of each student. Those in front of me now have had only half the money spent upon them when compared with the graduates who sat in the same seats in July 1980. Expenditure in universities in the United Kingdom as a proportion of gross domestic product is below the average for the European Union and 1/3 of that in the United States. The modest increases announced this week go no way towards bridging those gaps. So as the graduating students leave here today, they need to maintain some sense of the university's recent history, its significant achievements, and the problems that it and other universities now face. For only by doing so will they be able to participate constructively in the widening debate about higher education and thus have the opportunity to contribute to the progress of their university over the coming 40 years. I hope, therefore, that all the graduates will remember their years at Leicester as I remember my 29 with affection. Sue Campbell and I thank the Senate and the Council for the honorary degrees and wish the university, its students and its staff well for the future.
The graduands in the Faculty of Arts will be presented by the Dean, Professor Pearce. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of Arts to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Members of the Faculty of Arts, by the authority of the Senate, I admit you to the several degrees which you are presented.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Elizabeth Robinson Pine. Christopher Starr. Shai-Ying Tsang Cheng. For the degree of Master of Philosophy, Alan Keyes. Nina Rodan. For the degree of Master of Arts in English Local History, Paula Alcott. Carol Carpenter. John Paul Carr. Audrey Godfrey.
Congratulations.
John Hayden.
Congratulations, well done.
Nicholas Harden.
Congratulations, well done.
Marilyn Lindley.
Congratulations.
Richard Merriman.
Congratulations.
Jane Murray.
Congratulations.
Catherine Robinson.
Congratulations.
Beryl Tracy.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Museum Studies, Julie Alsop.
Congratulations.
Helen Dodd.
Congratulations.
Deborah Gallagher.
Congratulations.
Maria Gideon.
Congratulations.
Catherine Gillard.
Congratulations.
Rachel Hand.
Congratulations.
Susan Hards.
Congratulations. Well done.
Sarah Jane Harknett.
Congratulations.
Emma Hazelwood.
Congratulations.
Victoria Hill.
Congratulations. Well done.
Victoria Hollows.
Congratulations.
Chiai Ishii.
Congratulations.
Lindsay Jones.
Congratulations.
Sayako Kawadauka.
Congratulations.
Heather Kennedy.
Congratulations.
Yayoi Kikuchi.
Congratulations.
Kayang-un Kim.
Congratulations.
Tai Kuriki.
Congratulations.
Pauline Lillico.
Congratulations.
Alison Lindau.
Congratulations.
Malika Markovich.
Congratulations.
Alistair McLean.
Well done. Congratulations.
Rachel Moss.
Congratulations.
Tracy Newman.
Congratulations.
Lauren Parker.
Congratulations.
May Redfern.
Congratulations. Well done.
Laura Regan.
Congratulations.
Katerina Saka.
Congratulations. Well done.
Madeline Scott.
Congratulations. Well done.
Annalisa Smith.
Congratulations. Well done.
Elizabeth Stowe.
Congratulations. Well done.
Sarah Tekaawi.
Congratulations. Well done.
Denise Tomlin.
Congratulations.
Kate Travers.
Congratulations. Well done.
Alison Watts.
Congratulations. Well done.
Oriel Williams.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in American Studies, Nicola Baker.
Congratulations.
Laura Benjamin.
Congratulations.
Adam Brown.
Congratulations.
Stephen Crown.
Congratulations.
Christopher Deichler.
Congratulations.
Lisa Garvey.
Well done.
Louise Herring.
Congratulations.
Zoe Howes.
Congratulations.
Samantha Jones.
Congratulations.
James Kirkman.
Congratulations.
Abby Ledwith.
Congratulations.
Simon Papworth.
Congratulations.
Alison Rosethorne.
Congratulations.
Karen Simpson.
Congratulations.
Tom Stevens.
Congratulations.
Sarah Stokes.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in American Studies with a year in the United States of America, Gavin Bishop.
Congratulations.
Katie Brockway.
Congratulations.
James Burgess.
Congratulations.
Julie Cooper.
Congratulations.
Julie Hamilton.
Congratulations.
Patrick Hourahan.
Congratulations.
Claire Pennington.
Congratulations.
Audrey Skirvin.
Well done. Congratulations.
Caroline Tribe.
You've got a lot of support out there.
Hannah Watts.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in English, Catherine Alabaster.
Congratulations. Well done.
Dominic Allen.
Congratulations.
Marcus Allender.
Congratulations.
Christopher Barker.
Congratulations.
Lisa Bennett.
Congratulations.
Patricia Bland.
Congratulations.
Gillian Blundell.
Congratulations.
Emily Bolton.
Congratulations.
James Buckley.
Congratulations.
Claire Cadwallader.
Congratulations.
Charlotte Cambridge.
Congratulations.
Alison Canton.
Congratulations.
Claire Cheverell.
Congratulations.
Joanne Clarkson.
Congratulations. Well done.
Gavin Cole.
Congratulations.
Thomas Coogan.
Congratulations.
Suzanne Crowe.
Congratulations.
Louise Crowther.
Congratulations.
Emma Cumberland.
Congratulations.
Laura Davidson.
Congratulations.
David Deacon.
Congratulations.
Kate Denny.
Congratulations.
David DePares.
Congratulations.
Seema Dosani.
Congratulations.
Nadine Dukeson.
Congratulations.
Joanna Evora.
Congratulations. Well done.
Catherine Farrell.
Congratulations.
Stephanie Fawcett.
Congratulations.
Marion Feely.
Congratulations.
Daniel Fletcher.
Congratulations.
Andrew Fox.
Well, they are very popular, I think.
Peter Guy.
Congratulations.
Emma Halls.
Congratulations.
Ilma Hamard.
Congratulations.
Vicky Hammond.
Congratulations.
Claire Hardman.
Congratulations. Well done.
Emma Hardwick.
Congratulations.
Nicola Harris.
Congratulations.
Lucy Hewitt.
Congratulations.
Sarah Hewitt.
Congratulations.
Helen Holden.
Congratulations.
Judith Hopper.
Congratulations.
Elizabeth Houston.
Congratulations.
David Jenks.
Congratulations.
Lauren Kennedy.
Congratulations.
Amy Kirkwood.
Congratulations. Well done.
Catherine Levine.
Congratulations. Well done.
Stephen Mace.
Congratulations.
Francis Macklin.
Congratulations.
Sean McGiven.
Congratulations.
Claire McGlasson.
Congratulations.
Daniel Macmillan.
Congratulations.
Adam Mitchell.
Congratulations. Well done.
Rachel Modd.
Congratulations.
Donna Mondelli.
Well lost sport there.
Laura Morris.
Congratulations.
David Nunn.
Congratulations. Well done.
Alison Parker.
Congratulations.
Catherine Pulteney.
Congratulations.
Joanne Preston.
Congratulations.
Amy Prodgers. Ashley Quinn. Nicola Rano.
Congratulations.
Gillian Rimmer.
Congratulations.
Timothy Runneker.
Congratulations.
Claire Sambrook.
Congratulations.
Gianpaoli Subutoni.
Congratulations.
Chandan Sharma.
Congratulations.
Catherine Spalding.
Congratulations.
Lucy Stock.
Congratulations.
Ellen Thompson.
Congratulations.
Catherine Timothy.
Congratulations.
Sharon Vinton.
Congratulations.
Ben Walmsley.
Congratulations.
Helen Warner. Claire Watson.
Congratulations.
Terry White.
Congratulations.
Alexandra Whitfield.
Congratulations.
Jessica Wilson.
Congratulations.
Anna Winsley.
Congratulations.
Helen Woodland.
Congratulations.
Kevin Wright.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in English, European Union, Richard Brown.
Congratulations.
Elizabeth Carless.
Congratulations.
Rebecca Jones.
Congratulations.
Stephanie Marston.
Congratulations.
Annabelle Moore.
Congratulations.
Catherine Reeds. James Stevens. Christiane Sykes. Melissa Tom.
Got lots of support now.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in History, David Barber. Gordon Barr. Oliver Benson. Chloe Bingham. Charlotte Bradley. Eleanor Bryan. Holly Carter. Amy Crowhurst. Sarah Davis. Charlotte Day. Aaron Dyde. Malcolm Evans. Michelle Evans. Claire Ford. Michelle Foxall. Catherine Freeland. Victoria Gaskin. Kirsty Goddard. Elizabeth Godfrey. Douglas Gray. Andrew Grice. Helen Groom. Louise Hansford. Jonathan Harriman. Alice Helm. John Jones. Tina Kemp. Gemma Lassie. Martin Lawrence. Andrew Lester. Paul Leyland. David Llewellyn. Nicholas Lowe. Louise Mason. Bernadette McCrory. David McInnes. Mark McNaughton. Benjamin Millwood. Matthew Niblett. Lisa Nicholas. Sarah Ogden. Simon Ostheimer. Sarah Pilling. Aaron Pope. Letty Porter. Vivian Preston. Rebecca Rickaby.
Congratulations.
Damien Riddell.
Congratulations.
Johanna Scott.
Congratulations.
Emma Shaw.
Congratulations.
Claire Single.
Congratulations.
David Spon-Smith.
Congratulations.
Elaine Tan.
Congratulations.
Neil Taylor.
Congratulations.
Tracy Taylor.
Congratulations.
Stuart Terry.
Well done.
Hannah Thomas.
Congratulations.
Helen Unwin.
Congratulations.
Simon Ward.
Congratulations.
Catherine Warnett.
Well done.
Oliver Webb.
Congratulations.
Mark Williams.
Congratulations.
Simon Williams.
Congratulations.
Thomas Wood.
Well done.
Emma Woodrow.
Congratulations.
David Wotton.
Congratulations.
Julie Wyatt.
Congratulations. Well done.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in History, European Union, Ashley Phillipson.
Congratulations.
Louisa Selby.
Congratulations.
Catherine Voss.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in History and Archaeology, Michelle Brock.
Congratulations.
Robert Chambers.
Congratulations.
Daniel Conlon.
Congratulations.
Louis Early.
Congratulations.
Michael Goodman.
Congratulations.
Tracy Grigsby.
Congratulations.
Joanna Hancock.
Congratulations.
Paul Hanson.
Congratulations.
Louise Hedges.
Congratulations.
Christopher Jolin.
Congratulations.
Jeremy Mitchell.
Congratulations.
Gareth Morgan.
Congratulations.
Claire Muger.
Congratulations.
Matthew Newnham.
Congratulations.
Daniel Plowright.
Congratulations.
Jennifer Pratt.
Congratulations.
Helen Shaw.
Congratulations.
Mark Shutt.
Congratulations.
Bethan Tompkinson.
Congratulations.
Owen Tromans.
Congratulations.
Rebecca Withington.
Congratulations.
Melissa Witherspoon.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in History and Politics, Paul Allenach.
Congratulations.
Helen Bowman.
Congratulations.
Victoria Braunton.
Congratulations.
Michelle Cowop.
Congratulations.
Jessica Duffield.
Congratulations.
Jenny Eastwood.
Congratulations.
Madeline Faulkner.
Congratulations.
Emma Hamilton.
Congratulations.
Christine Harris.
Congratulations.
Stuart Hastings.
Congratulations.
Julie Hutchinson.
Congratulations.
Sarah Kelly.
Congratulations.
John Leckie.
Congratulations.
Daffyd Lloyd.
Congratulations.
Alan Long.
Congratulations.
Richard Munn.
Congratulations.
Rebecca North.
Congratulations.
Adam Orchard.
Congratulations.
Laura Pogson.
Congratulations.
Emma Rogers.
Congratulations.
David Shepherd.
Congratulations.
Peter Smith.
Congratulations.
Faye Sowerby.
Congratulations.
Paul Twigg.
Congratulations.
Bethan Underwood.
Congratulations.
Abigail Weeks.
Congratulations.
Oliver Wellesby.
Congratulations.
Thomas Woodward.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in English, Tim Hall.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees which they are presented.
The graduands in the Faculty of Education and Continuing Studies will be presented by the Dean, Professor Fogelman. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of Education and Continuing Studies to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Graduands of the Faculty of Education and Continuing Studies, by the authority of the Senate, I admit the several degrees for which you are presented.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Sue Aradzi. Graham McFarlane. For the degree of Doctor of Education, Stephen Lewis. Patricia Moore.
You are admitted to the degree of Doctor of Education. Congratulations.
Richard Rose.
You are admitted to the degree of Doctor of Education. Congratulations.
Yoshiro Takanashi.
You are admitted to the degree of Doctor of Education. Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Applied Linguistics and the Teaching of English to Speakers of Other Languages, Jane Barnes.
Congratulations.
Damon Brewster.
Congratulations.
Enachan Chetin.
Congratulations.
Leslie Kendall.
Congratulations.
Sian Norris.
Congratulations.
Judith Parker.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Professional Studies and Education, Jane Austin.
Congratulations.
Susan Brown.
Congratulations.
Rosalind Berman.
Congratulations.
Ian Grimshaw.
Congratulations.
Leslie Lamb.
Congratulations.
Jenny Oliver.
Congratulations.
Linda Sprott.
Congratulations.
Dee Thomas.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Business Administration in Educational Management, Penny Archer.
Congratulations.
Elaine Austin.
Congratulations.
Graham Bowes.
Congratulations.
Sue Cobb.
Congratulations.
Andrew Dobson.
Congratulations.
Miriam Friedman.
Congratulations. Hello.
Wendy Gocher.
Congratulations.
Michael Grima.
Congratulations.
Michael Haynes.
Congratulations.
Belinda Hughes.
Congratulations.
Christina Marshall.
Congratulations.
Emerald Mohammed.
Congratulations.
Robert Mudd.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Valerie Newton.
Congratulations.
Leah Peleg.
Congratulations.
Sarah Quinn.
Congratulations.
Anne Shipman.
Congratulations. Good.
Gary Stout.
Congratulations.
Ben Sumner.
Congratulations.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Let me begin by congratulating our honorary graduates. Their presence here today emphasises the continuity of learning, the fact that what you learn at university is just the first step on a long process in life, where you put to use in one way or another all that you've learnt. Our honorary graduates provide role models to which you can aspire. I'm sure that several decades from now, some of the younger members of the audience will be back in a more senior capacity. But this graduation is primarily for the benefit of the junior members, who've worked so hard to earn their degrees. For you, this is a great occasion, and one for us all to celebrate. I know that many of you have relatives and friends here to support you, and we've heard encouraging support from them, and they also deserve congratulations for your success. And finally, we should not forget your teachers, many of whom are also here, since they will be delighted their efforts have been successful. In welcoming you all, let me give a special welcome to those of you who have come from abroad, perhaps visiting Leicester for the first time. We're very pleased that you made the effort to come, and we hope that you've enjoyed the occasion. We all know we are living in an era of rapid change. The world scene has been radically transformed in the past decades. The great political and military divide, symbolized by the Berlin Wall, has gone. We live in a world which, while not exactly at peace, is no longer under the permanent threat of instant annihilation. Democracies are, on the whole, replacing dictatorships. New parts of the world are developing into advanced economies. The scientific technological revolution is having a profound impact in a way which is only just being glimpsed. And the young people graduating today will live in a quite different environment from their parents and grandparents. It is a more interesting but more complicated world. One can perhaps draw an analogy here between the scientific and political spheres, and of course there is a link between the two. The modern scientific era began with the Newtonian view of the universe as governed by simple laws which in principle enabled one to predict the future in a methodical way. In the 20th century, this view has been transformed by things like quantum mechanics, with its famous uncertainty principle, and chaos, which shows that Newtonian prediction does not always apply in complicated situations. Similarly, in the political world, the ideas of a simple, rational world run on utopian ideas involving planned economies has been replaced by a more complex and diverse picture of reality. These great political and economic changes have had a major impact on the importance of education. We hear everywhere about the knowledge-based economy, where the secret of success lies not in raw materials or large factories, but in the trained intellectual resources of the country. So around the world, the demand for education, particularly higher education, has grown enormously. We see this here in Leicester, where the university has continued to expand at a rapid rate. And while this is necessary and welcome, it does have a few practical drawbacks, one of which is that the Chancellor has had to enlist the assistance of the Vice-Chancellor in handshaking at this ceremony. I'm very grateful to him. But let me assure you, that all of you, that your degree retains its full value, whoever shakes your hand. What effect do all these changes in the outside world have on the individual student who is graduating here today? In former times, when society was more rigidly organized, the individual had little choice. The son followed in the father's occupation, and of course, the daughter had even less choice. The future was predictable, but usually bleak. Now the situation is totally reversed. Barriers have broken down, there is a great deal of choice, which itself makes for difficulties, and there are vast opportunities. In return, we have more uncertainty. The future is less predictable, but at least we have hope. So for the individual, education has broadly three roles. It is first, the gateway to opportunity. Without a good education, you would have much less choice of possible avenues for the future. The training that universities provide is your entree to the modern world. But democratic societies require more than just a trained workforce. They require educated citizens who can make critical and informed judgments. In a world obsessed by publicity and propaganda, it is hard to distill the truth from the welter of pseudo-information that floods around us. A sound democracy can only flourish if its citizens can think clearly for themselves and not become passive absorbers of what the media, the government, and industry dish out for us. Finally, education should open the door to personal and intellectual fulfillment. We must not only think, but we must enjoy thinking. Universities are there to introduce us to the great thoughts and creations of the past, to enable us to participate in the culture of the present, and to help pass it on to the next generation. The University of Leicester is proud of its contribution to your education and hopes that you will leave here with happy memories. We would like to keep in touch with you in the future. And since education is now, as the Vice-Chancellor said, a lifelong process, and the presence here today of many mature students indicates that, you may wish to return sometime in the future for further studies. You may also send your children, your students, or your friends here for their education. It remains for me to give you my best wishes for your future and to allow you to continue to celebrate with your friends and relations the rest of the day. Thank you. I now declare this congregation closed.